All right, it is 6 o'clock and we will call this meeting to order. And Superintendent, would you please call the roll?
Okay. I'm going to call the roll. President Holt.
Here.
Trustee Grigsby.
Here.
Trustee Brickler.
Present.
Trustee Ross.
Present.
And Trustee Wedge.
Present.
And Trustee Brickler, would you mind leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Absolutely. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I move that we approve tonight's agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And those opposed? Seeing none. First is recognition of the school board trustees.
We got this.
Okay. It's my honor tonight to honor our outgoing trustees. We're going to start with Jamie. Would you come up here, Jamie, please? So tonight we honor Jamie Ross for her 4 years of service on the Auburn Union District's Board of Trustees. Her dedication to our students, staff, and community has been unwavering through her tenure as a trustee. Throughout her time on our board, Jamie has been clear in her intention to cultivate a community in which all kids belong. She has been an advocate for our students, prioritizing care and connection within our schools. She has made herself accessible to parents, students, and staff, always lending a listening ear and offering support. Beyond the boardroom, Jamie has actively engaged with the Auburn community. She's been a driving force behind initiatives focused on increasing access for arts for students. And she has assisted students with producing their own music and organizing engaging assemblies and rallies at our school site. It has even been reported to me that during her time on the board, she has made an individual connection with each teacher in our district. Additionally, through her extensive community connections with organizations like the Master Gardeners and the Latino Leadership Council, Jamie has brought valuable resources and partnerships to our schools. Jamie, we want to thank you for your commitment to our district during your time as a trustee. We know that your support and connection with our school community will continue well beyond tonight. Please join me in expressing gratitude to Jamie for her service.
I just want to take a second to say nobody can do this alone. And so first and foremost, my parents are here. And those of you that know my family know that my father started the Boys and Girls Club. And there is a service that we have offered this community since the day I was born. So I never did this with intent to ever falter or my only intent was to be there for these children and make sure that we have really, really strong leaders for Auburn's community. And we can't do that without our teachers. And I just have to stop and say, teachers, staff, paraeducators are getting paid $16 to $18 to $20 an hour. You can make more money at Chick-fil-A. And they're dedicated and they're here and they're in our schools. This is our community. And no matter what happens with leadership, we are in control. These are our children, and we will make sure that they get what they need. So Amber, congratulations. Emily, congratulations. Welcome to the board. Please make sure that you stand behind every word that you say and show up. Show up to our schools so you know the impact you have on our children. Thank you.
Sarah Brickler, would you please come up? For the last 4 years, Sarah has been a dedicated member of our AUSD Board of Trustees. During her time on our board, Sarah has worked hard to make important and impactful decisions. Tonight, we honor her for her dedicated service to our students, families, and school communities. Sarah has been a steadfast advocate for our teachers, students, and families. Her passion for education has driven her ongoing work towards the betterment of our schools. Her willingness to connect with the broader community has allowed many to feel a stronger connection with the governance practices within our district. She has shown ongoing interest in initiatives that support the educational experiences of students and individuals that do the day-to-day work that keep our programs going. Beyond her duties as a trustee, Sarah has been an active and involved parent and community member. She has volunteered countless hours at both Skyridge and in years past Alta Vista Charter. Her leadership and dedication at the site level included organizing grants for Alta Vista, playing a crucial role in the development of the Orchard and Culinary Lab. Sarah has maintained a constant presence within our community, attending countless school and district events, in addition to her work with the Auburn Education Foundation. Through this work, as well as her dedication as a trustee, she has helped to strengthen ties between our schools and the community. We are truly grateful for Sarah's contributions to our district. Her hard work, dedication, and passion for education has made a lasting impact on our schools. Please join me in a heartfelt thank you for trustee Sarah Brickler. Can we take one? Should we take one big picture?
Because I don't want to get that in the way. Yeah, I stand over there. That's okay. Block it. Awesome.
Moving to item 4, certificate of appointment and oath of office for our newly elected board members.
We're going to go in alphabetical order, so we'll start with Amber Poole.
For the camera.
And you're going to repeat after me.
Sounds good.
I state your name.
I, Amber Poole,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I will take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, Emily, raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name,
I, Emily Chavez,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States,
and the Constitution of the State of California
the Constitution of the State of California,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
against, sorry,
That's okay.
all enemies, foreign and domestic,
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California.
and the Constitution of the State of California,
That I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations. You did it.
Okay, next is public comment on the closed session agenda items. And do we have any? All right, seeing none, it is 6:16. We will recess. We will go into closed session at 6:30 and reconvene in open session at 7:30. Thank you. All right, it is 7:30. We will reconvene an open session. And direction was given to staff in closed session. So moving to item 8, actually, correction. Yes, Superintendent, would you please call the roll?
We're going to do a second roll call since we have a couple new people. We have to make sure they're here. President Holt,
Present.
Clerk Grigsby,
Present.
Trustee, I gotta practice and get it right. Trustee Poole,
Present.
Trustee Travis,
Present.
Trustee Wedge.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. So moving right to item 8, recognition of the PG&E Community Service Project.
We'd like to present, just doing service certificate of appreciation for two individual groups that came together to help Auburn Union School District. And we were under watch from the fire department in Auburn to gain compliance for fire clearance. And they came to us and they said, hey, we have a day where we can come and do a lot of work for you, get a lot done, and it's not going to be any cost to the district. And it turned out to be a great service project. We cleared approximately 3 acres, maybe more, at Alta Vista School site. We currently have another occupants there, but the district would have been responsible for paying and maintaining that. So Brian Riom from PG&E and Evan Foss came forward to help us out. And so these are pictures up on the screen of the work project and the work that they did. And we would like to present them with these certificates. So thank you for your generous community service project to Auburn Union School District. Your time and effort helped reduce wildfire danger, provided significant cost savings to the district. And that cost is somewhere over $15,000, maybe $20,000 that it would have cost to have contractors come in and do that. So we greatly appreciate it. And thank you very much for your service. So I'd like to have them come up and accept these. For Evan Foss Enterprises and one for the GC Sierra team at PG&E. So thank you very much for your help and thank you for helping us. Thank you guys. Thank you. Thank you.
Before you leave, let's actually get a photo of
Yeah,
everybody.
a photo would be great. And if I could just also add that along that area that they cleared in Alta Vista, there's a number of homes there. And I know those homeowners have a vested interest in what happens with that area as well. So not only are they helping Auburn Union School District, but they're helping us to also be really good community partners for our neighbors, which we always want to be. And so we genuinely appreciate it. So thank you so much.
right, and moving then to item 9, we'll have the annual organization of the board. And starting with the selection of officers. And the way that's going to work is we need a motion to nominate a board member to first president, then clerk. And then we'll move on from there through the rest of the agenda item.
I want to make a motion for president. I think that President Holt has been doing an amazing job, and I'm moved that we have him for a third term.
Oh, and okay, and I accept. Thank you. Okay. Is there any discussion about it? All right, if not, all in favor?
Need to have a discussion on it? Or?
Yeah, what do we
We
want
don't
to talk
have
about?
to.
Can we talk about it?
No, I did.
I want to see your resume.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Seeing none, thank you,
Congratulations.
thank you. And I move that we nominate trustee Grigsby to the role of clerk again. Would appreciate it, seeing what you've been doing over the last year.
Thank you. Well, I accept. If it's before movement.
I'll second that one too.
Okay. All right, now we get her resume out. So, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Okay, great.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Okay. Moving to appointment of the secretary of the board. That is the superintendent. I move that we appoint Dr. Brittany Meyer, the secretary of the board.
I'll second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. Okay.
Welcome.
Next up is the county committee district voting representative selected for 2025. Can you explain that one a little bit as well? Thank you.
So each year, the board has to make a decision on who they would like to be the voting representative for Auburn Union School District. We need one of our board members to go forward. Annually in the fall, typically it's in October, that voting member will then cast a vote for the county committee. The county committee is made up of anyone who is put forward as a representative for different areas within our Placer County as a whole. And then that voting representative votes on the whole ticket. Each area, someone is wins, I guess. Someone is placed in each of those areas based on the votes from those county voting committee members. And then for the remainder of the year, they remain as part of the county committee for Placer County. In previous years, Jason Wedge has served, or at least this last year, Jason served as our voting representative. And so we would, you would make a motion and then a second and all in favor for who would be doing it in the coming year. We can take comment on anything on the agenda item, but it wouldn't necessarily be question. Well,
I think we could maybe talk about it offline, but we really can't back and forth.
but happy to talk about that. Yeah.
I move that we have Jason as our representative again.
And I second the motion. And all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Seeing none, it carries. Okay, now next up, item 9D, approval of board policy 9320. And this ties in directly to item 9E. So if you'd like to explain for us, Superintendent.
Yeah, so board bylaw 9320 dictates how our meetings are held. And in previous years, we've always held on second Wednesday unless otherwise agreed to like this meeting, for example, through the board calendar. In our future year coming in 2025, it was proposed that we switch our board meeting days to Thursday, still the second Thursday, but it would be the Thursday instead of the Wednesday. And therefore, what you see in front of you now is just that one word amended in 9320. Instead of Wednesday, it says Thursday. And then you guys can discuss, ask any questions that you have, and then decide if you'd like to take action on that change.
Are there any clarifying questions or discussion? Okay.
I have one. So going through that, looks like you also cleaned up the document also with because you got a lot of the footnotes.
Except for the calendar?
Yes,
Especially on page 3, is that what you're looking at?
for
Okay,
the
give me-
bylaw 9320.
Let me take a look. The only change we made was Thursday, but sometimes the track changes pick up,
So
like
if
it
we go
crosses out
down
the top.
if we go down the pages, it shows there was a lot of formatted changes.
Okay, let me pull it up. Sorry, my computer's frozen.
Oh, that might just be the tabbing. I think that's just the indentation, Jason.
Okay.
Yeah, no. Good. What page are you looking at, Jason? Okay.
Yeah, if you go to
Oh, over
page
here.
3 and then every page down, it's on the right-hand side. I was just, as I was going through, I was reading this, I was comparing it to the old one. It looks like everything was pretty much the same.
Yeah, so it's an indent formatting thing that in track changes it catches, but I'll be honest with you, I'm not exactly sure. We didn't change any wording there. If you look, it just says indent as if we took that number and indented it. I'm not sure why. What we're doing is we're pulling out of Assembly, turning it into a Word document.
Okay.
Then making the change, then asking it to track the changes we made. And sometimes when those odd ones come up, we'll just clear them because it's just a number indent.
Okay.
But I didn't do that, so I apologize. But there's no wording changes other than Thursday.
No, it looked like to me that you went through it and actually cleaned it up a little bit.
Sure, let's pretend I did that.
Okay.
Just,
Thank you.
I
Good
did that
job.
for you because I knew it would be important.
Okay.
Are there any additional questions on that? Then I move that we approve board policy 9320 as written.
I'll second that.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And those opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. With that, then, will be the approval of the draft schedule for regular board meetings for 2025.
So what you'll see here is that there's two because we didn't know what was going to happen with item D. So there's two proposed meeting calendars. Since item D was approved, we'll now be looking at the Thursday calendar. What you'll see there are the second Thursday of every month with a few exceptions. For example, when you look at August is pushed to the third Thursday because that's the first week of school. There's a few changes like that, but I believe it's only August. Oh, January. Oh, because because we returned to school and we would be on winter break when the board agenda would post. That's also pushed to the third. So January and August would be off by 1 week. But other than that, they're second Thursdays.
I'm noticing that July says TBD.
Yes.
Is-
So
Is that because of that July thing?
yeah, so we did check. I believe the question from the board previously was that there was ed code that required a monthly meeting. So I did follow up on that just to double check when we were making this schedule. Attorney feedback is that there's no mandatory rule to have a meeting every month, but they did recommend we hold a TBD meeting in July in case we have something that has to go to a regular board session. So for example, when Jeremy was hired as our CBO, a management contract can't go on a special session. So if you recall, we approved his contract in August because of how the July meeting played out. So if we have a July meeting on the calendar and we need something like that, we can hold it. If not, then we can have that conversation in June and you can choose to cancel that meeting if you wish, and we'll push to August.
I move that we approve the draft meeting dates for the Thursdays.
I'll second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Seeing none, that carries. Okay, so it looks like next up we have a special presentation from Human Resources. No, you just turned it off.
Okay, can you hear me? Oh, yeah, hello. Okay. Good evening, trustees. It's the annual review on recruiting and retention. It's a part of strategic 9 of your strategic plan, number 9 of your strategic plan. And so I will kind of give you an overview of what's currently going on. Our district staff are the heart of the educational experience. Their dedication directly impacts student achievement, well-being, and success. Recruitment and retention are vital to maintain a stable and effective learning environment. We all believe that. A strong, consistent, respectful-minded team can ensure continuity in education, fostering a supportive school culture and reducing disruptions for students. This is an example of the type of flyers that we put out on Twitter and Facebook. We recruit in a variety of manners. The Human Resources Department is committed to developing and implementing not only new ways to recruit staff, but to retain our district's current staff members. It's extremely important to us, and even more so over the past few years with a lot of staff feedback. We have some incredible ideas moving forward. Successful recruiting events have been job fairs, partner with other districts, community organization events. Currently with the Chamber of Commerce, we'll have a virtual posting board. PCOE consortium, MOU agreements with colleges and universities, and good old-fashioned headhunting through social media, Indeed, Facebook, and Twitter. I've currently joined a group that I actually formed through the HR people at the county office. And what we're doing, because we're all in shortages and finding staff members, we're all calling each other when we pick our first, who is our second. And we're putting our seconds out to people in case you're interested in taking on their person. So 2 people that we've interviewed this week have been second picks in interviews. So that's really important. Since July 1, I'm moving forward, not looking back. So since July 1, we've hired 31 new certificated staff members, 15 classified new hires. I have 7 more applications we're going to be interviewing for paraprofessionals, by the way. 16 new substitute teachers, and I have 10 more to bring on board. And we have 21 open positions that we either have filled by long-term subs or contractors. And those positions are outlined on there, which are the teachers, ed specialists, teachers being, we're looking for a VAPA and a leadership teacher, ed specialists, paraprofessionals, LVNs, facilities, food service, speech and VAPA and leadership. So what are the challenges that we face for recruiting? Many of you probably already know this, but it is really true. There is a teacher shortage nationally, locally. All of the districts are feeling that. A lot of teachers are leaving, including substitute teachers. There's a lot of variety now for teachers than there were before. In the past 10 years, a lot of people you can see are doing homeschool, or they're doing a home business, or they're going into tutoring and developing their own business. We have 3 teachers who left us to do something similar to that. Burnout and workload. That's very much true. Since the pandemic, and increased demands have resulted in higher burnout, leaving many educators feeling overwhelmed and under-supported. Absolutely true. You can see that in a variety of ways, not only with teaching staff, but your students, parents. It's been a tough 4 years, 5 years, if you even count the year before the pandemic leading up to that. Choice, teachers leaving other professions, retirement. A lot of our teachers are retiring out. A lot of our teachers who have gotten credentials, who have gone to 1st or 2nd year teaching, are also leaving their profession. Relocation is steadily rising. Classified wages are more competitive in the private sector. That's very true. We're working on that. The district has plans to be more innovative in taking a look at that and partnering with both unions on how we can level out the playing fields. So we do recognize that that's extremely important. Pay and benefits, keeping up with inflation, rising costs, providing competitive wages. Health costs for the 25-26 school year are expected to increase by 6 to 8%. I'm on the Employee Benefit Review Committee with Schools Insurance Group, and we take a look at a variety of ways to mitigate costs by adding to co-pays or emergency room visits in order to reduce the amount that you're paying in a premium. I'm sorry. Retaining staff. So this is a challenge in changing the mindset of where we have been to where we can go. So I'm a huge believer in change. I don't think change is a bad thing. Change is life. Change is what we have to live with it. It's all how we choose to go through it and come out. So we need to band together. We need to go one back or one forward. Sorry. Thank you. School culture. Parent engagement, leadership, and staff recognition, extremely important. Definitely, for me, I would like to see district, and some of you already know my philosophy on this. I would really like us to not be a pass-through district. I would really like us to be a home district where staff stay and mature and grow families and bring their kids here. And I think we can do that together. I think there's a lot of opportunities to make this happen. One of those things is recognizing certain comments. So I do have a teacher comment up here. I love my job, but it seems it's becoming harder to teach. I enjoy working with my peers. I just felt I wish I felt more appreciated and valued. That was not just by leadership or by leadership as a whole for the district, but also by parents. Truly there is some behavioral issues. It does come out, but we're reaping that from in my mind, social media and COVID, being at home 3 years, that's really very, very difficult. So we have teachers that are really wanting to do more, wanting to do better, are doing better, and are really good teachers. But just how do we move forward with that? What do we do? What are our strategies? We have a classified employees, same thing. I want to stay in my position, but I can make more at McDonald's. And she's right, she can. She came from McDonald's. But the one thing that attracted her to here was that she could get benefits and retirement. So we do offer that, but for full-time 8-hour-a-day employees. So, and our salary schedule is a lot more competitive for our leads and our kitchen managers right now than they were before 5 years ago. But it's rough work. It's rough work for the pay. Thank you. Creating a positive school culture, recognition programs. Superintendent Meyer brought forth a really great program. It's a note of gratitude. The way to celebrate staff and to celebrate achievements that staff are making at the school sites. Is excellence in attendance, teacher of the month, years of service. We already do years of service, but we would like to expand that. And do more. The notes of gratitude, I think, are extremely important because they are random. They're not played. It's sincere. Just working with Superintendent Meyer, I'm very appreciative of her leadership and what she's brought forth, and she is sincere. So this is something that I think is really cool. And as long as we continue to do it, I think that's important. Setting and establishing goals and continuing to practice it. Collaboration and communication provide an outlet where teachers feel heard, supported, and valued by their colleagues and administrators. You know, even if it's just a good old-fashioned session where you're coming in and just letting teachers have at it, I think that's extremely important. And that's not just teachers, but I mean all staff, even support staff. I think it's important to find that avenue where you take 15 minutes of your staff meeting and just let them have their moments, because it is extremely difficult. And this is where we feel we can support them more by allowing them that autonomy. ensuring that all staff feel safe, included, and respected. That's extremely important, as well as what can we do to make our campuses more safe. And of course, Superintendent Meyer, once again, she's got a plan, so we're really happy about that. And moving forward with that, it's extremely important. Induction programs, offering structured induction programs that address classroom management and student instruction. We do that already. We partnership with PCOE. And we do have mentor stipends for teachers for our interns. We currently have one intern, but we'll have another intern for next year and possibly another in special education. Ongoing training, providing continuous professional development opportunities that focus on enhancing teaching skills, leadership development, and wellness. So making sure that we're not hitting that only for the children, but hitting that for those who are teaching and providing. So it's really important to remember that the airline story, when the masks drop, you put the mask on yourself first and then you put your mask on the child. It's the same thing. So just ensuring that we have good programs in place that provide support for all staff, because we're all doing that, but our teachers are in the classroom trying to make this happen with their students. So leadership pathways, creating opportunities for career advancement within the district for teachers who want to take on leadership roles. And I would point out that that would be similar to the program specialist. That's a great opportunity. Instructional coaches. I believe the Ed Services Department deserves a lot of credit for how that was formed and the reason why, by providing support to teachers. If we are that pass-through district and we're getting a lot of young teachers, preliminary teachers, teachers who need induction, they need coaches. And they need a good Ed Services Department to help them through their couple of years of teaching until they move on and find better. That has been the premise that we want to turn. We want them to have the support for the 2 years, but my goal is that they stay. So I have a lofty idea in my head that we're going to turn around retention, and one actual summer I'm not going to have to hire anybody. Woo! So we'll see. Establishing and maintaining norms. I really believe in this circle, this district norms. It's like anything we do in our family. We have to practice it every day, like we're teaching our children. We have to practice this every single day so we don't let it go. Clear and respectful communication to each other, to our children, to our parents, and in return, the same thing. Building teamwork, remembering we are AUSD, you are AUSD, classifieds are AUSD, community is AUSD. We are our school district. This is our school district. And we need to say that more and invest ourselves more in what that actually means. Recognizing employee achievement, even just going by and saying thank you to someone who's working with students, whether it's the mental health therapist or the psychologist or the teacher, board members who contribute. Everyone is contributing some way to making this a district that's valuable. So I'm just saying, just kind words of appreciation can make a difference. Peer support, making sure that we're supporting our peers, especially in mental health. It's very challenging to be a mental health therapist in this district. And a psychologist and working in special education. They take a lot of things on with students. Students have a lot of family issues. They have behavioral issues that are just, we don't know the whys, but the mental health therapists do. So it's important to give them a shout out as well, because they're taking that on and it can be very overwhelming. So just talking to a mental health therapist, Lindsay Sprecher at Auburn Elementary, and her working with the students. I just told her how much it was appreciated, and she just started to cry. It was just, she never felt that. And it's a lot to hear, but it's important that we say that. How do we retain staff, quality staff, have effective evaluations? Employee recognition, mental health support is extremely important. We have a really good EAP program, that's an employee assistance program. It's free to employees that can provide mental health therapy or family therapy, or can provide you outlets if you need it. It's no cost, it's confidential. The district sees none of it. It doesn't come through HR. We're given only statistics of who participates in the sense of your demographics, whether you're a female or a male or we don't know particular schools or positions. Parent engagement is extremely important, and I'm going to leave that up to you and the superintendent, and I'll focus on employees. Stability within the district, I think, is important. Getting to a point where we can actually stabilize. And I think that's important to how we can grow and be a successful district, is setting our norms, keeping our standards, and doing that every year and following through with that every year and just being the words that we say and just not on the paper. Positive impact. How does that do that? So if we do all these positive things, what are we expecting? Our outcome should be increased staff satisfaction. Implementing these strategies, we hope to see improved job satisfaction, engagement for our educators, leading to a more energized and motivated workforce. Absolutely. If you see you're appreciated and valued, you'll feel that way. And that will come back to you in the classroom. Improve student outcomes when teachers and staff remain in their roles for longer periods of time and have the resources to thrive. Students benefit from consistent instruction, stronger student relationships, and higher academic achievement. I did not necessarily believe that until I saw the turnover in a classroom where a teacher was not there. It wasn't working. So having consistency in the classroom with the student, it just opened my eyes to a whole vast reasons of how those students are now doing better because they had the same teacher now for 6 months and they're developing a relationship and trust. It does make a difference. So again, wanting that to be that home that we want Auburn Union to be. I'm going to just close with a statement. My next one is just the board questions and committee. So just closing statement. Recruitment and retention in schools is not just about filling positions. It is about building a community where we all grow together with trust, patience, respect, and mutual goals. By fostering an environment that values innovation, collaboration, and well-being, we empower all staff to inspire the next generation. Let us take every effort to retain our dedicated educators and staff members as an investment in the future of our schools. Together, we can overcome challenges and transfer them into opportunities for sustainable achievement. That's truly what I believe, and I think we can do that. And that's my presentation. Anybody have any questions?
I don't have questions. Thank you, Michelle.
I have one question. So going back to the slide, the comment by the teacher, one of the things, can you expand a little bit more on where they said, I love my job, but it seems it's becoming harder to teach. And as a board, what can we do to assist and help in that? Like, maybe push back on some of these policies as being, coming down from the state or increase something or add something as a board level, what can we do? Or is there anything we can do?
Well, I believe that there's always things that you can do. I think it depends on what you want to do and the level you want to do it. I see education as, for me personally, not as Auburn Union HR, this is a personal opinion. I see education as a systemic problem from the top down in how we fund our schools. We fund them so much that they become competitive. I don't see an equalization across the board. We can't compete with a district with 25,000 kids. We don't have the funds or resources. In our small district, we have a significant special education population that encroaches on your general fund as well. There are a lot of mandates that make it very difficult at our level to do that. We get special funds, we get certain monies that we can make exceptions for. I'm not a politician. Now, where I see it in the classroom, I believe teachers need far more support than what they're getting, in the sense that we've changed the way we're teaching students and we're changing the way we're disciplining students. That's coming from Mount High. A lot of the decisions that we used to make, we can't do those things anymore. So we need to come up with creative ways of addressing student population. Student behaviors. So the point of discipline now becomes, how else can we do that? How do we develop relationships with students that are hard to get through? So I had a teacher say to me this, and this was the teacher that said this to me. I have 50 minutes and I'm an art teacher. Art is a simple subject, you would think. In those 50 minutes, 40 minutes, maybe 25 to 40 minutes, she says, is getting kids to engage, to sit down, to listen, to be a part of. That was very frustrating to her. She also stated that she used to write ODRs. ODRs are behavioral slips that you write and you send to the office. She stopped writing them and decided that she was going to engage students on a one-on-one level and find out what their issues were and try to, and I thought this is a new teacher who's new to the profession, very young. And I thought that was incredibly bold for her to do. But she also has a lot of peer support. And she did say that. She has a lot of peer support, veteran teachers that she talks to who give her ideas on what to do in the classroom. So when it comes to what do we do to give teachers more, we have to look at what they're not getting or what they're getting and how can we perfect on it. How can we engage parents more? That's another hard one. Some of these things are way out of our control. We can't go into people's homes and say, this is how you should teach your children. But we can say, when John's here, we can't get him engaged. So what can we do? How can we help? How can we help develop a relationship with Don to get him to want to learn? That's so much bigger than me. It's almost mind explosive. So you can imagine how teachers might feel in the classroom, how she might have felt. She wants to stay, and she is going to stay. She's told me she was going to stay. But it's a big question. That's a big question. I would say, as board members, search your soul and try to do the best you can as board members to bring down those laws that you're mandated to do. I mean, we're federally and state funded. There's not a lot we can do, but I know Superintendent Meyer, just listening to her and listening to the things that she wants to do and talking to Ed Services and talking to teachers, I think she has a really good plan and direction, but it requires all of us to participate. And that's what I think I appreciate most. We're not leaving out paras in this. We're not leaving out custodians. We're not exclusively identifying teachers, but we're saying behaviorists, Ed Services, our mentor teachers, our paras, everyone's going to join in making this a better environment, and then figure out in steps how we can do that.
If I could interject too, this seems a lot like something actually that Superintendent Meyer and Director Young have been working on.
Oh, absolutely.
I think we'll end up getting a report from Director Young down the road at a future meeting to speak to some of these things, student
Absolutely.
supports, in-class supports, even reaching out to the families, maybe not going into the house to tell the parents how to teach Johnny, but to reach out to those parents and have the conversations. And I know Director Young does make home visits.
Yeah.
As well. So.
And she's PBIS certified, and she's a motivator. And I always tell her all the time, and I wish we could see her capacity in a different way, because she's really good with kids and she really gets it when she's talking to students. So that's the kind of interesting thing when you're putting HR together with student behaviors. I end up learning a lot more than I knew before I walked into the situation. But on this side, I do understand the fear and the frustration for staff members, because how do we fix a systemic problem where we don't necessarily have control over all those things? The only thing we control is what we do in our school district by making it a better place for employees to thrive. The rest, we're just going to have to not necessarily cross our fingers, but hope that we can come up with sound solutions and get parents involved and engaged.
I just wanted to say I appreciate that you guys are looking at this, because as you said, we can't control how the students come to us, but we can control how we support our staff so that
Absolutely.
they have the capacity to handle the extra burden that is now on education. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
I think, Trustee, thing that's most important to staff is that we follow through. So just in my 10 years here, I think one of the biggest complaints from staff members, including myself, is a lack of consistency. And that's because we've had a lot of issues and a lot of changes and a lot of upheavals over the past 10 years that I've been here. We're now developing that, and I think we're going down the right road. I think Superintendent Meyer has that vision that we all want to hear. We just want to support her. I know it's important for me. I want to support her, but I want to support the employees and making sure that they're getting heard and we can move forward.
Could I add one, or maybe more than one thing, but I think Michelle hit on a couple of key points here, right? I mean, she shared some hard truths with us. Like, being an educator is very hard. And whether you're an educator in the classroom or the cafeteria or wherever that may be, but moving forward, there are things in our control and outside of our control. One thing I think we're working on, Michelle touched on this, is that she lives in the world of HR and payroll, and Kelly might live in student supports, and I kind of live in both of those worlds, but we're always talking to each other, and we're having those systems work together so that we are implementing new hiring procedures so that we have high quality candidates and high quality people coming into our district that are prepared for what, may come to them as being an employee here in Auburn Union and working within our community. And then in addition to that, we're looking through ways that we then support people once they're in the system. Because one of the things I think we can always do is, as best we can, reduce unknowns and increase consistency for people, gives them the bandwidth to then deal with those things that may come their way, that because that's just life, right? There are some unknowns that are going to come our way. But if you have the bandwidth for that and some tools to try, that's a much better and more comforting place to be than to say, this thing happened and I have no idea what to do. So we're working from all avenues together to get there. And I genuinely appreciate the work that Michelle does in the HR and payroll realm, and the way that we all kind of work together to pull from the same oar and move our way down the path. So thank you, Michelle. We appreciate you.
And I think she hit it on the head right there. I think that's extremely important. Just getting everyone to jump in. I know you're fearful, and I know you're wondering if this is just all backwater talk. Jump in. I guarantee you, if we all come together, we're going to make a difference. I just believe that. So I'm hopeful. Glass half full.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Can we have you come back every meeting, give to motivate us?
Yes, I would be happy to.
Thank you.
Mine will be geared towards you next time. Thank you.
Okay, moving to item 11, and this is public comment on items not on tonight's agenda.
I have two. Sarah Hudspeth.
Good evening, board. My name is Sarah Hudspeth. I teach first grade at Auburn Elementary. I've spoken at many of these. Welcome, Trustee Amber Poole and Trustee Emily Travis. I've been in this district for 8 years, and I wasn't going to comment tonight, and then I was listening to Michelle Bunt's talk, and I had some points to make. Because a lot of the things she had to say are valid. Student behavior this year, myself, as well as other teachers from Auburn have come and talked about the behaviors at our school, and it's atrocious. More than that, the response to those behaviors is inadequate. We have school psychs who are basically being a one-on-one aide because kindergartners cannot stay in their classroom. I had a kindergarten student, a different one, run into my classroom multiple days in a row, come in and start throwing things, pulling things off of my shelves, throwing things to the point where my class could not learn. And our response was for someone to follow her around and for all the teachers to be told to keep their doors locked. That's not acceptable. I cannot teach under those conditions and my students cannot learn. So now we have some fairly high paid professionals who are supposed to be school psychs for our entire school
acting as one-on-one aides for students rather than the behaviors actually being addressed. In my class in particular, I'm then dealing with students who have tier 2 behaviors that just need a little extra, who are not able to access those tier 2 interventions and are becoming tier 3 behaviors, who are now eloping from my class or eloping from recess on a daily basis because the behaviors have not been addressed, because we don't have the capacity to address those behaviors. Teacher burnout is a real problem right now. I myself have no support in my classroom. I had a little bit of support at the beginning of the year, but there were so many fires on other parts of the campus that all of those supports have been pulled. So now, in addition to having to deal with all of the behaviors in my classroom, try to teach my students, when one of my students is being assessed, I now have 300 plus questions to answer about the student, no support time to do that. So I'm spending my time after school answering 300 questions about a student who has no supports. I'm getting no support. We're also given trainings to do. Our annual PSW trainings, every teacher knows them and just doesn't quite love them. I spent 9 3/4 hours doing those trainings. I wasn't just playing it and watching TV or whatever. I actually did the trainings. I was paid for 6.9 hours because that's the time it said it would take. One of them said it was going to take 35 minutes, but the actual run time on the video was 47. I didn't get paid for those extra minutes. So either these trainings are not valuable and I should just click through them because why am I doing it? Or we need to actually be compensated for the time we take because we're trying to learn these things because our district decided they were essential to our job. So, thank you.
Bob Peterson.
Congratulations, Amber and Emily. You appear to be coming on at a really great time for this district. Seems to be on an upward trend. So good luck. I think the community's really anxious for y'all to be very successful. A quick question. I was here last month and then this month on item 7A, announcement of action is taken in closed session. And I know sometimes those items are not for public information, but like a personnel matter, I can understand, but as far as labor negotiations and pending litigation, maybe I didn't read the minutes very well in the past, but I didn't hear a recap what happened in the closed session. So what is the normal process for the board on that?
Yeah, so so typically with public comment, we can't go back and forth, but in this case, we can clarify. And so when we came back in, I reported that direction was given to staff. And so that was the extent of action taken in closed session.
Okay. Thanks.
Sure thing.
Thank you.
All right. And was there anybody else who didn't turn a card? All right. So moving then to association comments. First up, Auburn Union Teachers Association.
Good evening, School Board and Superintendent Meyer. First, I would like to welcome our 2 new board members, Amber and Emily. I hope that we will see you at the school sites, that you will familiar yourself with our schools, our staff, our students, and our AUSD community. I wanted to take a moment to review past words from our board president from earlier this year, when President Holt said that the board was going to be holding off on conferences, that it was fiscally irresponsible to be spending money when the district was struggling financially. I know that all 5 of the trustees and administrators went to the CSB conference. I'm assuming that the registration fees probably totaling over $5,879. This doesn't include hotel accommodations and daily food per diem. When all is said and done, I'm guessing the ballpark number is probably $15,000 to $20,000. We still have yet to settle for negotiations for this year, but we've already spent $5,000 on legal fees for negotiations. I also noticed in the AUSD board report that we're paying for administrator to get a credential for a principal for $4,000. When looking at the capital outlay, they've spent over $299,995 on playground equipment and shade and structures. But the only usable playground right now is the TK playground at Auburn Elementary. When looking at the district's personnel, we contracted for behavioral services just in the month of November, over $130,000. I have serious concerns if this is what being fiscally responsible is and trying to save money. In solidarity, Sarah Liebert, AUTA President.
All right, and then CSEA.
Good evening, President Holt. Did it turn off? Oh, good. Good evening, President Holt, the board, Superintendent Meyer. I want to thank Sarah Brickler and Jamie Ross for their dedication to the students, staff, and parents of AUSD. I want to welcome our 2 new board members to AUSD family. I also want to say that we have lost several longtime employees in the last several months. They're going to be very missed. Nina, Janet, Kim, and Debbie have given many years of service for the betterment of the school district. Janet, Kim, and Debbie, we wish them a very well-deserved and happy retirement. That's all. Thank you.
All right, and moving to the consent agenda. Is there anything on here anybody would like to pull?
Yes, I would like to pull A and then also F1 and F2.
Okay. Anything else? All right, seeing none. This will be a roll call vote. I move that we approve the consent agenda less items A and F1 and F2. And clerk, if you please conduct a roll call vote.
Absolutely. President Holt,
Aye.
Clerk Grigsby, aye. Trustee Poole,
Aye.
Trustee Travis,
Aye.
and Trustee Wedge.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Ayes have it. All right, Trustee Wedge, turn it over to you for 13A.
Yes, 13A. Thank you, Sarah, for bringing up. I counted over 100,000 on behavioral health services that we spent just in the month alone. And I guess my question is on that, what are we doing to, possibly hire a permanent position? It's, I guess first, is this something we're spending month over month or roughly around that? And it seems like a lot of money, if you add it up quick, we're over, well over $1 million, just on behavioral health services alone. Is this something that are we active looking for, for a permanent position on this?
Can you let us know which particular ones you're talking about linked to behavior, Jason, in there?
I mean, there's a lot of them. I just went through the list. I mean, some of the big one is, just looking at page 1, you have, was it Amergin Healthcare Staffing Incorporated for contracted behavioral services, and that one was for $26,261.04. And I saw quite a few, I think a few of them alone. And I'm sure some of these, might be contracted, might not be contracted, but it seemed like quite a bit that we're spending just on contracted services. And I guess my main question just on that one is, can this be replaced as a permanent employee versus something we have to contract out?
Yeah, those are definitely budgeted for permanent employees, and we just haven't been able to fill those positions. They've been advertised and flown, and those amounts are in the budget, and we would like to, find employees as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you.
So, well, actually, let me make one correction on that because that is true. So we had a full-time behaviorist position last year. And when I came on in July, I looked at with Kelly, how many minutes were we serving for students on IEPs and how many FBAs did we have functional behavior assessment, excuse me, in a typical year. And what did that account for in terms of need? And what we came to was that took about 2.5 days of service to cover what we anticipated from last year to this year. We had a full-time behaviorist. That person resigned. So we contracted with PCOE for their behavioral health services for that 2.5 days a week. It accounts to about a 250-hour year. That's not what you are talking about here. What then happened is that individual who had left had some functional behavior assessments that were signed, and they were not properly inputted into the system prior to that person's departure. And so we were left with, and a functional behavior assessment takes a number of hours, and there's a timeline associated with that we needed to then fill that quickly. And when we reached out to PCOE, they were not able to up the hours because they'd already allotted that person's full time. So we were forced to contract out for that, which is what you see there with the marriages. So that is correct, that's to complete those. That person, the plan is not to have them here necessarily throughout the year, but to pick up that load that kind of came at us and we were not expecting. But based on that, and now reviewing that we're in it and we're looking at the data, the conversation has been in the special education department that we probably should look at hiring a full-time behaviorist moving into 25, 26 that would then take that PCOE contractor off the table, which is a lower hourly rate than the Emeritus service, but then also would alleviate the need for the Emeritus service. So it is very likely that as we move into spring and we're looking at staffing, we bring back that behaviorist position that will come to you through budget updates and what have you. But it does still exist as a position within our district. We didn't collapse it. We just filled it in a different way and are now determining that based on what we have, I think we do need to look at a full-time person. And that one I can definitely answer, but I didn't see other ones in there. So was there another one maybe we could look at, or you let me know?
Yeah, just for the sake of time, I just kind of roughly went through this, and I mean, we can probably spend, a whole hour or more just going through. Some of these are $4,000, $5,000, $6,000,
Yeah.
at smaller amounts, and I don't think we need to go through all of them, but it sounds like definitely you're working on it to bring on somebody full time to to reduce some of these costs.
Yeah, and I do want to state that some of what you will see on there, I'm going to assume, and we could go through this and we could talk about it at length another time as well. But we have some students at non-public schools who, as part of their offer of free and appropriate public education, as part of their IEP, are placed at these schools, and then those schools bill us for the services that are provided because those students have an offer of FAPE that is outside of what we could reasonably provide within AUSD. So they will sometimes bill us separately, depending on the non-public school, for the enrollment, for the speech and language, for the behavior. So even though that's coming up as a separate thing, it's all linked to one student's offer of FAPE at a non-public school. So that could be another one as well. But we could very well go through these with more of a fine-tooth comb if you're interested in that too.
And that's something that we're stuck with. We're not going to be able to, we're going to be stuck with that bill regardless. It's not something we can hire somebody, to fulfill that.
Correct, because the need of what that child requires necessitates the offer of the non-public school, and then where they're placed at the non-public school, we're beholden to what that staffing looks like. Sure. Absolutely. And leading up to that, if we're looking at annual IEPs where students are meeting goals and it looks like a transition might be possible, we would also be having conversations, not to predetermine, but to let the parents know, if we were to look at something like this, what might that be? And then we would take them on visits. Like if, for example, one step down from that would be a county program, maybe that child's ready to return to home district, then we can do those tours ahead of time so that when they come to the IEP meeting, the parent has all the information they need to ask questions around whatever the offer of FAPE is that we have on the table at that point based on the data we have.
Okay. Thank you. I got two more, but so my last comment on that. So as far as the well over $100,000 that I identified that possibly could be contracted services, is the actual contracted services is way low below that amount.
So I see wherever you see it says NPS after the behavioral services, that would be a non-public school.
Okay,
Yeah. But the emeritus one that we talked about, that is on us in terms of determining if a full-time position would be a better use of our dollars.
okay, thank you. All right, and then one other thing is, well, two more things. I noticed on here, there was 2 payments for the Boys and Girls Club, you know, over, a little over $133,000. Can you better help me understand on, I mean, I thought Boys and Girls was a nonprofit organization and, and I didn't look back through the previous ones and, it seems like a lot that we're spending on the Boys and Girls. There was some transportation. That's not included in with this. This is just, 2 transactions, equaling over $130,000 paid to the Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah, sorry, the ELOP program covers the Boys and Girls Club fees. And so we offer those programs at multiple sites. And we're given funds to make those programs work. And so those are their costs for employees and the time and effort that they put into that program. So it is expensive, and they have a lot of employees and a lot of staff that support those programs. And they're doing it, and a lot of school districts are doing it with teachers and staff on site. And we're trying to do it with the Boys and Girls Club. So they've stepped in and are able to do it, and the program's working out really well.
Okay, thank you. All right, and then see one more. If I can get an exclamation. I saw this on page 8, and it was, fairly small amount. It was for, let me find it here. I'm on page 9, page 8. It was for $1,433.95, and it was labeled as late fee for HP equipment lease. And the late fee, that kind of, can I get a better explanation on that? Why we're paying late fees? Is this a mistake on HP end or?
So that lease has closed out, and they have certain cutoff times that are really tight windows. And we, by the time we get the invoice and turnaround time, it often results in a late fee. And unfortunately, that's the way that they have their structure built on those leases. This looks like an error, and oftentimes what we do is we try and go back and get those funds and get them waived if we can. But since we're out of this contract, we've had difficulty trying to get in touch with them, and they haven't responded to us. So to be in good standing, we paid the late fee that was listed on the invoice.
Okay, thank you.
But to clarify, we're still trying to push back on that if it is an error.
Yes.
Trustee Wedge, do you have anything else?
No
on-
further questions on this
On
this
A.
item on A. And I'll move to approve this. Approve item A.
And I'll second that motion. And then clerk?
Trustee Wedge.
Aye.
Trustee Travis.
Aye.
Trustee Poole. Clerk Grigsby, aye. And President Holt.
Aye. So still with you, Trustee Wedge, on to F1.
So F1 and F2, they're pretty much the same question. So Superintendent Meyer, can you help me a better understanding on, because I know there's been some talk in the past of MOUs not being brought to the board, and I'm seeing frequently MOUs are being brought to, to the board for approval. And so what would, define something that would be brought to the board for approval and what would not?
So the defining line is going to be fiscal. So the MOUs that you have in front of you for CSEA, for summer assistance, and for the reclassification, that we'll then talk about in action items. Those two have a fiscal impact on the district. They're outlined within the MOU. We do have some MOUs for service that don't always cost money. So for example, and I think we talked about this when we have an MOU with PCOE to run our wellness centers that is a service to us, but there's no cost because PCOE has secured grants outside of AUSD to fund those. And then part of their responsibility is to offer those services that they're providing to local education agencies, LEAs, and one of those is AUSD. So one like that, I might sign to say, yes, we're asking for the service in terms of how we're implementing for students. But if it has a fiscal impact like these two, we would bring those forward to the board.
Okay. Would you be in agreement as far as if it doesn't have a direct fiscal aspect to it, but it does bring a administration aspect where, where it takes time to prepare the paperwork and prepare the documents and, that's all, can be fiscally, as well, because, it is, it's not costing money in dollars, but it's costing time, which equals dollars.
Yeah, and with what you're talking about is more a collaboration aspect. So, I mean, the one that I brought up was wellness centers, for example, but that would be like there's a wellness meeting that happens at each site where principals would be a part of that, potentially counselors, psychs. And then we meet as a district team with leadership to make sure that what they're implementing and what they're offering and what our needs are being met and they're in alignment. And that falls within our regular, job description in terms of collaborating with community organizations, collaborating with employees within the district and making sure our students' needs are met. So I agree with you that certainly it costs money, but I think it all falls within our regular job descriptions too. It's definitely not outside.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So I will move to approve F1 and F2.
I'll second.
Clerk, would you please call a roll call vote?
Absolutely. President Holt,
Aye.
Clerk Grigsby, aye. Trustee Poole,
Aye.
Trustee Travis,
Aye.
and Trustee Wedge.
Aye.
All right.
All right. Moving then to item 14. And do we have, let's see, starting with 14A on the accounting technician job description. Is there any public comment on that? Not seeing any. So 14A.
Yeah, this is an accounting technician position, and it's the data technician that is currently in the position will be transitioning over to the accounting technician based on the agreement with CSEA. And this job will provide support to the district office in accounting practices and taking on responsibilities that are needed in the office.
And we should add that we had an accountant position that we're collapsing and not filling. Instead, we're moving to this accounting technician position as a classified position to be helpful to Jeremy as the CBO. And this will go along with, we'll talk about it next, but some of the duties that the person currently working as a data tech is taking on, she will have more time to do this accounting work because right now she does also fill a receptionist role. So we will be taking those off her plate to allow her to take on more accounts payable and accounting position duties.
Are there any questions on the action item or the job position? With that, I move that we approve item 14A and approve the job description.
I'll second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. And on to 14B, CSEA job description for district receptionist.
So with the accounting technician coming on board, that will take someone out of that front desk role. where Becky sits right now. So we would take on a receptionist position to take on, it's about 40% of the workload that she does right now in terms of mail, answering phones, people coming in, answering questions, that kind of thing. In addition, there are some job duties within our district office that used to fall on an executive assistant for educational services that no longer exists. And some of those job duties can also roll over to the receptionist that we weren't able to parse out to other people in the department. Primarily things like helping with ordering curriculum, keeping track of all of those pieces that we all kind of worked through in the summer. And now we'll have someone to take that on throughout the year, making sure they're ordered timely, and then teachers get them in time for their classes, and they're able to be parsed out well before students arrive on campuses. So that'll be part of what the receptionist job will be, and this would be a new position taking on part of Becky's current role, allowing her to move into the one you just approved.
Are there any questions on that? Okay, I move that we approve the CSEA job description job description district receptionist.
I second that motion.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. Moving to 14C, the salary schedule 28 update.
So this is the classified or salary schedule for our classified staff. So what you'll see are there updates in there to include the two positions that were just approved in 14A and 14B.
Are there any questions on the salary schedule? Okay. I move that we approve the salary schedule 28 update as provided.
I second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Seeing none. Moving to item 14D, approval of resolution 24-25-106, the middle school credential authorization.
So we currently have, as you see in that resolution, a Spanish teacher who's out on leave, and we would like to have a long-term sub placed in that position who's currently working, but we'd like her to work beyond the 30-day sub permit. To do that, you have to be a credentialed teacher. This person does hold a credential. However, their credential was given prior to some changes in legislation around single subject credentials. So if approved by the board, this resolution would allow us, under some ed code that's listed there, to allow this person to serve beyond the 30-day short-term sub permit and stay long-term, as long as she's done the following conditions, which she has met: completed 12 hours of semester work and coursework, or 6 hours of semester work and upper division graduate work, consented to the teaching assignment, and then the last piece being that the board would approve the resolution. And we're happy to answer any questions you have about that.
Are there any questions from the board? Okay. Well, I move that we approve the resolution 24-25-106 middle school credential authorization.
I'll second that.
Okay, and then clerk, if you please call roll call vote.
Trustee Wedge,
Aye.
trustee Travis. Aye. Trustee Poole,
Aye.
clerk Grigsby, aye, and President Holt.
Aye.
5 ayes.
All right, motion carries. Okay, moving to the 24-25 first interim budget update.
Humpy.
So the first interim budget is our first snapshot after the original budget was approved. And what we're able to do is capture all the things that have happened since the original budget. And so I'll try and make this simple, easy to understand, and answer any questions that you have at the end. So go to the next slide. Can't quite see it. So what this is just an overview of the state budget. And in lieu of reading it, I'll just explain to you what it means. The state couldn't fund Proposition 98, which is our local funding control formula last year or this year. And so they borrowed from future years' revenue, which we can't do. So they were able to do that somehow with bookkeeping. And it created an $8.3 billion maintenance factor, which is them borrowing that money. And they're planning to repay $4 billion of that. And that is money from the rainy day fund. So much like our reserves that we have currently, that's the state's rainy day fund, and they're tapping into it and they're planning on paying it back. So with that, the local agencies were not immediately affected, and they're not significantly impacted due to the state drawing down those reserves. They created some budget deferrals and reapportioned those funds and made it work. So what that says to me is that we need to be ready in case, the future, they're not able to make it with tax revenue and make Prop 98 happen. We need to be able to, weather the storm of deferrals. So with our current position, which I'll talk about later, we're positioned to do that. They were able to fund the COLA this year, which is 1.07%, and that is not going to affect us. It's going to go through just as planned. So with that, that's kind of a snapshot on the state budget. And we expect that, the tax revenues came in a little higher. So that could affect the repayment of the rainy day fund, or it could affect, it might look a little better for us. They could issue more one-time funds. We just don't know yet. And that would be like the Learning Recovery Block Grant or some of those other programs which help fund programs outside the local control funding. The next revenue. So this is a pie chart. 71% of our budget comes from the local control funding formula. So that's why we need to be prepared for any deferrals, or in case the state can't, fund us right away, we need to be able to make those, pay the bills. So the next one is federal revenue, and that's in red at 7%. And those are funds like title programs, the ESSER funds that we had, we just spent those out. And then the other state revenues, those are those programs, those are one-time funds. That 9% is other local revenues. That could be, leases for leasing out our other sites. That's donations that school kids get to pay for the field trips that they raise money for. So those are the things that are in local funding. So total, we're projecting $25,439,000 revenue for the year. So we'll go to the next slide, operating expenditure components. So what that is, the first ones that come out are the certificated salaries, unrestricted. This is that LCFF funds that we have. And that turns out to be about $6 million for certificated salaries. But when you combine it with the restricted funds, it's about $8.2 million. The classified salaries are in total about $3.3 million. Employee benefits are about $4.7 million. And books and supplies are about $1 million. Services and operating expenses, and this is where that, those ELOP funds that we're funding those programs from. These are the contractors, the paras, the behaviorists that we're contracting out for. That's where those funds are being spent. The capital outlay is about 1.4 million. And that's on all of our projects that we have ongoing. And we have those funds, through our capital facilities funds. We're paying for some of that through ELOP. And then our TK funds that we got for these TK playgrounds. The other outgoing expenditures there, transfer of indirect costs. So combined, it's about $1 million. And what that number is that's a contribution from the state for STRS, and we have to pay that out on a account for it. So that number is money in and money out. So that's basic explanation of that number. And then the other outgoing transfers, it shows negative $587,000. That's a outgoing transfer account. So the negative number is actually a positive number. So when we account for that, instead of sending the money out, it's coming in from those restricted funds. And so we get about 10% operating costs to manage those other funds and those other programs, and they go to our budget, the unrestricted budget. So of that, 79.8 of the district's unrestricted budget is salaries and benefits, and approximately 60% of that is general fund. All right, next slide. So our budgets are made on assumptions, and the biggest one is the COLA at the top. Last year it was 8.22. This year it's 1.07. Next year they were predicting 2.93, but it's probably going to come in about that or a little lower, maybe just above 2. And so we, have a little bit of cushion on our budget. If it drops a little bit, we can absorb that. But they're still predicting over 2.2% COLA. The STRS and PERS rates, and it just goes on and on. I'm not going to go through every one here, but it just kind of shows you the level of detail that we put into these projections so that we can try and predict as accurately as we can what the budget's going to be for the next 3 years. Next slide. So with that, our estimated ending fund balance for this year, total reserves is $5.4 million. And that leaves available reserves of 20% of our total expenditures of $27 million. And our reserve standard, the state tells us we have to keep $811,000. And that's not a lot of money at the end of the year or any time in our budget. For all those expenses, just in 1 week, we, can write $600,000 in checks. So we need to have enough money in the bank to cover those expenses. Our monthly payroll is about, averages about $3 million a month. Yeah, let's go to the next slide. So when we look at deficit spending, the deficit spending is necessary to spend these one-time funds down. And so if we don't spend them, we have to send them back to the state. And so we're given 2 years, 3 years on some of these funds to spend them. And we have to have a plan in place and make sure we allocate them and spend them correctly. The ELOP funds, we get about $1 million a year. And that's to pay for the Boys and Girls Club, the Champions programs, so that we can provide after-school programs for the students. And then also our Learning Recovery Block Grant. Our Learning Recovery Block Grant was a big chunk of money where we got to spend it on improving student outcomes. So this next year, that money is going to be rolled into the LCAP, and we'll have to include that in the LCAP for this next year.
Excuse me,
so-
Gary, real quick, would you just explain what ESSER funds are?
Yeah, the ESSER funds are COVID funds that were given to us to, make our district, whole for lack of attendance, for the ability not to, not be able to do some of the functions that we were able to do, buy additional HVAC systems to make sure the air was clean in the classrooms, to upgrade facilities to meet the needs of higher standards due to COVID. So
Thank you.
those are all funds that had to be spent out.
Thank you. It's just so the acronym stands for Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund.
Yeah,
And that's through the CARES Act.
correct. The CARES Act. And so the deficit is not due to you know, overspending unrestricted funds. It's those restricted funds that require, so the deficit is not required due to restricted funds that require contribution. So those funds are come out of our unrestricted budget to cover special ed. So special ed funds aren't affected by this deficit spending because that money is already coming out of our unrestricted budget. So anything that we're deficit spending here, that money goes away if we don't spend it. Okay, next slide. So the major contributions to special education is 5,066,000 and ongoing maintenance of 749,000. So that money comes right out of our unrestricted funds and we balance those funds against it. So those putting us in a deficit spend for those restricted accounts. Go ahead. So in conclusion, despite the current year and future planned deficit spending, mainly from one-time restricted sources, the projected budget and multi-year projections support the district is projecting to be able to meet its financial obligations to current and subsequent 2 years and making a positive certification on the 24-25 first interim. The district will continue to closely monitor spending and unrestricted balances to ensure fiscal solvency. That's it. Questions?
Not a question, but I'm really happy to see that it's going so well. Thank you very much for doing this, and this is really exciting. Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
General fund, and the resource is the 6331 CA Community Schools Partnership Act Planning Grant, and ending fund balance of 28,309. And I bring this up because when you go back to the 9/11 board meeting, this same slide is showing $180,000. So it's a big difference from 180 to 28. And also I was under the impression that we were not using the community school grant.
So we got direction from CDE that they did not want those funds back and that we had to spend them. And so we're taking measures to put them into student services and supports for, you know, additional services. I'll let Superintendent Meyer address that.
Yeah, so I think it was 3 years ago, Auburn applied for a planning grant. Is that the right term, Kelly? Planning grant? So it was, if, you know, giving you dollars to kind of start this planning idea of, are you going to move forward with community schools? And at the start of this year, we had that discussion at the district office of, you know, what are we going to do here? Are we going to move forward? And at the time, the answer was no, we're going to return these funds to CDE because we're not moving forward with planning. And when Kelly reached out and said, you know, please give us direction on how we return these funds, I believe we requested 200,000 if I'm remembering the numbers right, and they allotted us 180 of the 200,000 that we requested 3 years ago. The direction then given, as Jeremy's describing, is we don't want those funds back. So as long as you spend them within whatever the allowable categories are within what we had said in the original planning grant we wanted to spend them on, you're fine to spend those dollars without moving forward with the grant, you know, in future stages. And so what we did is we looked, and Kelly went through and talked with Jeremy about it, and we are spending those dollars on things that we were going to do anyway, but that fall within the planning grant confines. So for example, we use Toolbox, social emotional curriculum K through 5. And then we're looking at adopting or using, adopting is not the right word, we're trialing it this year, Toolbox for 6th through 8th grade. And so we were going to have to both purchase the rights to that for the middle school and then backfill for any elementary school teachers that either hadn't been trained or needed supplies in, the moves and shifting about. There were things that needed to be replenished, and some of those items are also consumable in nature, and they just need to be replaced. So the dollars that we then used for that, we just ran the toolbox training for middle school a week ago. Was it last week? I want to say it was last week. And when we come back in January, we'll be running the training for K-5 teachers. And then we have about, 100 puppets that look like cows and puppies and all of that sitting in our district office that will then be allocated out. We use those dollars out of the community school grant. So that drew the balance down by however much that math equates to, something around $150,000 or so.
Okay, I guess, my concern there is because a grant is very specific of what it can be used for. And if it's not used for that, there is a heavy penalty, that comes with that. And so as long as we're staying within those guidelines that we are
Correct.
spending exactly how that grant is written, even though we're not going the community school, model, but that's not, being spent towards a community school model.
Correct. So that was the ask with CDE was, what do we do with these dollars? And so we have the original application that was submitted 3 years ago with, here's what kind of the realm of what we'd want to spend those funds on. We're spending within that realm. And then that requires all that information goes forward to CDE. But our understanding from the conversations we had on the front end to make sure we were doing it right is that we can use the dollars for that. So then it saves us from, dipping into the general fund or some other restricted account for those same items we would have purchased anyway.
And all that will be reported, to make sure that we are spending, in accordance to, to the grant.
Yeah, I don't know the exact reporting timelines, but we did have one report that had to be submitted. I want to say it was June. It was right before I came on. And so we had reported that and said, we plan to return these funds and we haven't spent any. And that's what kind of prompted that follow-up from CDE to say, we don't actually, and then us saying, by the way, tell us how to give them back to you. We don't actually want these funds back. You can spend them within the confines of what you originally wrote to. And so that's what we're doing now. And then there'll be, do you know the timeline? Maybe it's June again. I'm not sure, but we could look, but there'll be another follow-up that comes at is it June? Okay. So another report will go forward in June to CDE outlining exactly how all these things were spent. So it's an annual report that we turn in at the end of the school year.
And what are the consequences, if consequences at all, if we did not spend it?
You just return it. Yeah, so that
But
was
you're
our
saying
ask.
but
If
we're
we
saying
don't
couldn't
spend
return
it. Say that again, sorry.
But you're saying we couldn't return it. So what if we just didn't spend it at all? It would just sit there for ever and ever?
Well, we could return it, but they said, we don't want you to return it. We would prefer you spend it within the confines of the grant, whether or not you're going to move forward to the next stage. Because the grant was in parts, planning, implementation, there's probably a third one I can't think of, but this was planning only, which was more of like an investigation stage. And so we were trying to say we weren't going to do that. We're not moving forward. So what would you like us to do with those dollars? And that's when the feedback came. Please spend it within something that, you wrote to. And that's how we decided on how to spend them.
And Trustee Wedge too. Also, I think that was one of the things that Matt brought up. One of the strikes against the district in the past was returning grant funding and other restricted funds that just weren't used. So that was funding that was allocated in the district that we didn't use or we used our unrestricted funding for. And in this case, these are items it's being spent on things that we otherwise would be spending on already.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions on the first interim? Okay, well, I move that we approve the 24-25 first interim budget update.
I'll second that.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. And item 14F, the leadership class donation toy drive.
Yes, I'll present from here. Let me just pull it up. This is for the Leadership Club here at EV Kane. And what they did is they raised funds last year and partly this year at their service club to raise these funds to donate to the Chips for Kids. Toys are donated to the Auburn community and will be given to children in the Auburn community. The toy drives have several educational outcomes for the children, including social consciousness. The children who participate in the toy drives learn the importance of giving back to the community and how their actions impact others. The values, donating toys can teach children values like kindness, generosity, and gratitude. Positive behavior, donating toys can encourage children to think about others and consider those who are less fortunate. So hosting this toy drive has lots of educational benefits for the community and builds stronger communities, and inviting community members to participate in the toy drive. So with that, we normally would get this approved prior, but the students have already done this through the program here at EV Kane School. And we would like to go ahead and reimburse the expenses for the toy drive based on the funds that were collected for it. So staff recommends approving the toy drive and reimbursement of funds for the toy drive.
All right, I got one comment on this before we go to a motion. So while we were all at the CSBA conference, I came back early and, a day early than everybody else. And literally I landed, got picked up, went home, didn't even change, and grabbed my two boys. And we came to I think we're about 15 minutes late to the Hometown Heroes where they presented the toys. And it was such a fun event. And, the kids, they did some plays and some skits, and actually, I forget his name, but the officer, I actually sat next to him. We had a good chat, but I mean, what a wonderful job that they did. So hopefully next year there's not a conflict with CSBA, and we all can go together. So it was a whole lot of fun. I brought my two boys with me, and they had a blast as well.
I love seeing the picture. It really just shows how much they put effort into this and really had a blast. I love that it looks like we'll be able to be involved in it next year too, and I can't wait to see what they plan for it.
I move that we approve item 14F, the leadership class donation toy drive.
I'll second that.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Seeing none, carries. All right. And moving to item 15A, the board policy updates first read.
So this is informational only. It's a packet of special release that came out from CSBA on board policy updates in July. Mainly, there's a lot of Title IX updates based on legislation changes that came through in the summer. This is first read only, so since it's informational, I'm happy to answer any questions you have at this time. But the purpose is to give you a chance to look through there, to look over the documents, the options that are available, what we're thinking of doing in terms of these policies so far and are recommending to the board. And then you could ask any questions now or when we come back in January during second read to follow up on. And if you're ready for it in January, it would be a vote at that time for approval.
Is there any way we can get this separated out where what is required by law versus what is recommended by CSBA?
I could look into that. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure, but I can look into that for sure.
Thank you.
Are there any questions or discussion on that at this time? Okay, moving right to 16, board governance with 16A, board direction and requests, and update on requests.
Okay, so I had a couple of requests last time just to report out on how those were handled. One was just from President Holt on bringing back board policy or bylaw rather 9320, which we did at this meeting. From Trustee Ross last time, we had a couple of things brought up to follow up on. Volunteer issues being one of them, ongoing substitute teacher availability, and what are we doing for recruitment? Where are we at with that? And any follow-up regarding janitorial or cleaning services. Those items were followed up on shortly after the November meeting, and then an email went out to all Board of Trustees on 11/22 with that information. So you should all have that at that point. And then the other thing she had asked about was what Mr. Woodley's concerns that I believe Sarah Hudspeth had read his concerns during the board meeting in November. Several of those we've been able to follow up on through their own avenues. For example, those related to athletics we talked about during the AD meeting, athletic director meeting that happened last week, I believe it was. And then, or sorry, that's not true, 2 weeks ago, we had the AD meeting. And then Mr. Woodley and I actually had time to sit down last week and talk about the remaining list, but unfortunately he had, like many people do, a sick kid because there's a lot of stuff going around. So I just let him know when it works for you, give me a couple of dates and we'll look to follow up again. So we're still working on that, but a number of them related to his specific athletic requests we've already covered. And that's all I had last time, unless somebody thinks I'm forgetting something.
And do we have new requests this evening that haven't already been brought up?
I want to make a request. I've been talking to Dr. Meyer about the MOUs with the Wellness Center, and it's kind of related to what Jason's saying with MOUs. I wanted to see if we could bring that MOU related to the Wellness Center and the multi-payer fee system to the board to review and discuss and then approve.
Trustee Travis, just to clarify too, the multi-payer fee system, is that the one? Actually, I guess this might be the superintendent. Is this one that we approved a couple months ago regarding the Medi-Cal reimbursement?
So I did a presentation on that one, and part of the action from the board, or direction given rather from the board at the end of that presentation, was whether to move forward with the next steps. And one of those next steps was the MOU to join the consortium. So I did move forward at that point with that MOU. So yes, that was part of a presentation already, and then action was given there.
I believe that was the meeting that I missed, that was taken. I believe that was a informational item that you brought it to the board.
Yeah, that was one where you were at the, yes, that was one where you were at the hotel and your hotel changed, correct?
And then Trustee Wedge, you also asked if we could have the policy updates kind of parsed out to what's required by law and what is suggested by CSBA.
Correct. And then I had one more request, if nobody else has any. Are you ready? Currently, we have a policy in place where we have all grants that go before the board for approval. I'm actually working on a policy change, and I would like to bring to a board for action item to include also MOUs to be brought to the board for approval. And the reason I would like it to be an action item, because one of the MOUs and questions that we want to bring back on the multi-payer fee schedule, I believe there is a small window where we can actually cancel that. And I believe that has to be done in January, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have that in front of me. But something we can look into.
Do you have the board policy number you're looking at regarding the grants?
I don't. I've been working on, I can send it to you. And I think it's 3290, if I'm not mistaken. policy 3290. I can send that to you, and then I'll send you also, what I'm working on as well.
Okay, yeah, if you could let me know the number and then
Okay.
send that to me, we can work on including it.
And trustee Wedge, typically we'd start things with info and discussion, one
Correct.
meeting, then be able to move to action or not, depending on if that's the will of the board.
Yes, I understand that.
Okay.
But one of the MOU is in question. I think our window, if we don't want to move forward in that direction, it has to be terminated in January if we're going to make that decision, unless we want to bring that up for the MOU, for the multi-payer fee schedule, unless we want to bring that up for an action item, and then we can do the policy for the MOU as a discussion, and then move forward to a policy if the board desires.
Do you think you could provide this in email to Dr. Meyer with more of the specific dates? Because you're not really giving us the specifics on it. You're saying you think there's a tight window, maybe January, but you're not giving
Yeah,
dates
I don't
policy numbers exactly.
I don't have that, and I don't have that available to me. The MOU, that's something that was never brought to the board. And I know the MOU, other districts has entered into a similar MOU, and there is a cutoff of January. I don't know if ours is the case, but I can definitely do some research, and I can email Superintendent Myers on that as well.
Okay, I think then we can develop whether or not we should move it right to an action item, or if we still go through the process we've been doing, which is have them on as info and discussion and then move to an action item.
Correct.
Just so everybody on the board has an opportunity to prepare for the discussion. And is there anything else? Not seeing anything, so we'll move on to 17 and comments, starting with the superintendent comments.
Sure. Well, and I'm sure everyone will mirror my sentiments, but I want to welcome again Trustee Poole and Trustee Travis to the board. I think we're all excited to have you aboard and look forward to the time, moving forward and how we're all going to work together. I also just want to make sure that I take a second to thank our community partners. I know we thanked PG&E, Brian Riom through PG&E, and also Evan Foss. And it really does take a village, and it's lovely when we can work alongside our community partners to do some great things for our school district and our community as a whole. So I just want to again say thank you so much to them. We've had a lot of successful events coming up. We talked about Hometown Heroes. We have Entrepreneur Pitch Night, where kids are going to be pitching their projects at Auburn L on Thursday at 5:30. That one kind of wrap us up before we head off to winter break. And last week we had a successful band concert where our band teacher had to pause for a minute and pull out extra chairs because there were so many people that came for our 6th or 8th grade band program. So that was amazing. We have some facility updates that are going well. The Skyridge Playground, we had some drainage things we're working on, and then final clearance for that, but it's up and running, and the staff told us that the playground is fantastic and they're enjoying it, and it's going really well. So Skyridge is up and running, Auburn L is in progress, and Evie Kane, we're still chugging along and working very hard, but we had a great meeting with TK and K teachers here at Evie Kane to walk through the options that we have at this moment and kind of what their thoughts are from a programmatic lens of how things might work best. And so now we have some next steps on what we're going to do. So that was lovely too. It's great to collaborate with teachers and get their input. So it worked well. Sarah touched on CSBA. It is not free. I agree with you. But we did just go to CSBA down in Anaheim. And it was a very, I think, productive time, especially since our new trustees were able to join us and go through a full day of new trustee training. Allows us, I think, to get off on the right foot with governance practices and everyone kind of having a clear understanding of roles and all of that. So I think it was a good thing. And the other good news is that next year it's in Sacramento, so we can all drive and be close to home and sleep in our own beds. But that and the camaraderie, I think, is fantastic. To let the board know, we had talked about Good Beginnings training with CSBA, which is around board governance and goal setting, and I'm working on that. I talk with CSBA on Thursday to try to look at some dates that they might have available. We're hoping to do that in February or March and set up our board governance moving forward from there. And other than that, it is that time of year where we are just about at winter break, and we have a lot of holiday events happening, including the toy drive and the Chips for Kids we just talked about. And I just want to wish everyone a very happy holiday season, and of course, a very restful winter break that is coming right around the corner. And I know people are counting down the days. So happy holidays.
And I'd like to echo the superintendent's sentiments, welcoming the new trustees to the board, and thanking the outgoing trustees. CSBA, again, I agree. I think it was really productive with the governance, the different legal sessions, and then opportunities for some of us to sit together and learn from these other districts who have gone through a lot of the same things that we have in recent years, and really help us build an effective governance team from the get-go. So that was really, really effective use of our time. Also wanted to thank Dr. Meyer, put together a really effective, I think, trustee onboarding this year that we just started rolling out for the new trustees, getting through the district, meeting key staff, learning everybody's roles. And then I think they'll also be working out to the school sites as part of that onboarding process for new trustees. So really want to recognize that and thank her for making sure that happened. And I'm really looking forward to the board governance coming up in February, March. We've got things like the strategic plan that we need to hone down a lot of areas where we can tighten up and make sure that we're working together effectively as a governance team, so we can reflect some of the values and the behaviors that Michelle Bunt talked about. That we can lead from this side of the table and be doing what we need to do to help the entire district succeed. So again, yeah, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, everybody. And I'll pass it on down.
Just wanted to reiterate the sentiment. Absolutely enjoyed the last 2 years with the past board members. Can't wait for the 2 hopefully plus years with the new board members. And CSBA was so informational. It absolutely was beneficial that we went. So I'm so glad that we did. We learned a lot. We are coming with new ideas, goals, 4-year goals, and everything coming up. Definitely happy holidays and can't wait to see you next year.
Trustee Poole, am I supposed to say it? I just want to thank Superintendent Meyer and the whole district staff and the board for a really, truly warm welcome. It has been a really fantastic onboarding process, and just the sense of teamwork that we're all experiencing, I'm really excited about. Yeah, and I'm really honored to be serving all of you, our school staff, and our community. So thank you so much.
I'm going to echo the same thing that they're saying. And I really want to say that I appreciate Dr. Meyer's leadership in the onboarding, especially. She's really gotten us up and running well. And also CBO McReynolds has gone over this budget report with us repeatedly, asked in-depth questions, and he's very on point. So I want to thank both of them for that. Thank you.
And I hear wonderful things about the onboarding, and I've been here for 2 years and I haven't gone through one yet, but I think we have a date narrowed down, January 17th. I think we're going to try to work that out. So after I go through my onboarding, I would love to share my experience with all you guys. I just want to say also the CSBA conference, I know it costs money, for us to go down there, but, some of the things that was spoken tonight, just, the teamwork and the team building. And because we're not just going down there and we're all kind of scattered doing our own thing. We're coming together as a team. We're learning together as a team. Sometimes we're pairing off in 2x2s or whatever and going to some of these breakout sessions. I got to spend the day with the 2 new trustees, which welcome, by the way, and Superintendent Myers at the trustee orientation, the new trustee orientation, which I never had a chance to go through, so I'm looking forward to next year, and for the CSB, and it is well worth going, because I think that can play a major role in having a, not only a governance team, but a well-rounded and a well-effective governance team. And those are the type of tools that we pick up at the CSBA conference, and it's going to go a long ways in the district. And so, so thank you for everybody attending. I think we all were there, so which was good. That's part of the team. Not one was lacking. Part of the team. So, and other than that, Merry Christmas, everybody, and looking forward to next year for this new, wonderful, effective governance team.
And with that, it is 9:25 and this meeting is adjourned.